Hey guys, I am going to read you our basil story this week. I do it every Monday. I've been trying to find some different ways that I can get this information out to you in a more normal way, but there's nothing normal about this situation, so I'm just going to read it to you and show you some of the pictures. If you want, open up your Think Central app and go to lesson 26, and it's called the Footrace Across America, and you can follow along with me if you want to. So, okay, here we go. The foot race across America. Back in 1926, in the hills around Foyle, Oklahoma, the jackrabbits must have gotten used to the sound of Andy Payne running by. The Cherokee teenager was almost as fast as they were. Andy loved to run. After he finished the morning chores on his family's farm, he ran 5 miles to school. He often got there before his brothers and sisters who arrived on horseback. I just had a knack for running, or being able to cover the ground on foot, he later explained. In those days, Andy won prizes in many track tournaments, especially long-distance events like the mile. His biggest race would be much longer than that, though. And it's kind of dark in here, but here is Andy right here. You can tell that it is a non-fictional article. Non-fictional narrative, I think, is the genre, but you can tell he is, it's real information or true information about somebody because there is his picture right there. Okay, runners wanted. After he graduated from high school in 1927, Andy, now age 20, went to Los Angeles, California to look for a job. Work turned out to be hard to find. One day, he read an ad in a newspaper that would change his life. Runners wanted, the ad said. An international transcontinental foot race was going to take place in March. The race would start in Los Angeles and end across the country in New York City. That was a distance of over 3,400 miles. The winner would receive $25,000. The 1920s were already known for crazy contests. There were dance marathons, 6-day bicycle races, even people setting records for sitting on flagpoles. A man named C.C. Pyle planned the foot race to follow the recently built Route 66, a road that stretched from Los Angeles to Chicago. Andy Payne was excited. He felt he had as good a chance to win as anyone. The prize money would help his parents pay for their farm. It might also help persuade his girlfriend, Vivian Shaddocks, to marry him. Okay, here's a picture. Old, you can tell it's way in the past because of what their vehicles look like, how they travel. But here's the Route 66 sign. The starting line. Andy hurried back to Oklahoma. He talked his father and local officials into lending him the $125 he needed to enter the race. Then he returned to California to train. After 3 weeks of running and getting into shape there, he felt ready. On the morning of March 4th, 1928, Andy lined up with nearly 200 other runners at the starting line. They came from across the United States as well as from other countries, including Finland, Switzerland, Canada, and Italy. They were as young as 16 and as old as 63. A few were already famous for competing in marathons and other long-distance races. One was the son of a millionaire. Most, however, were poor. In 1928, an average factory worker earned $1,200 a year. Winning the prize money would be like receiving 20 years' salary. Finally, the great football player Red Grange gave the signal. Boom! All 199 men sprang forward, each one dreaming of victory in New York City. And there's a picture of all the racers. Another real picture. Real photograph. Over mountains and deserts. The first day of the race was the easiest. All the runners made it to the town of Puente, California, 17 miles away. But it would soon get harder. The runners had to climb steep Cajon Pass and then deal with the intense heat of the Mojave Desert. By the 12th of March, 1 week into the race, more than 50 runners had dropped out, tired by the steep climbs and blistered by the desert sun. A record was kept of the runners' time for each day. Surprising many of the more famous runners was number 43, Andy Payne. Andy was running in third place. As the runners left behind California for Arizona, they faced even tougher climbs. By March 21st, more than half of the original 199 had dropped out, including the man who had been in first place, the South African long-distance champion, Arthur Newton. Now, here is a text feature that graphic source, I guess, that we are used to seeing. The author added this to show you exactly what kind of trail, what it looked like on the map to, when you take a look at it on, with the whole United States. I'm not sure what I'm saying. When you look at the whole United States and you think about going from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast, it looks a lot different when you put a picture with it. If you just said traveling across the United States, that doesn't really seem like it would be as long. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it does. But anyway, this graphic source is to show you the route in which they had to run in order to win the foot race. Okay. The runners had also discovered that C.C. Pyle, the race organizer, was not a man of his word. Instead of the big meals they enjoyed at the start of the race, they were now served poor stews. Often, Pyle's big caravan, nicknamed America, was late with the tents, cots, and blankets, which were never washed. Then, the runners were forced to sleep in barns or stables. Payne was having his own troubles. He had tonsillitis and a fever, but he kept up the pace. After the runners had made their way through the snow and mud of northern Texas, Andy entered his home state of Oklahoma in the lead. Okay, another real photograph of maybe some of the sites, the terrain that they are having to run over. The Bunion Derby. By now, the foot race was attracting lots of attention. The newspapers had begun to call it the Bunion Derby. But Andy was lucky. He didn't have bunions, swelling of the big toes. In Oklahoma City, Andy told a cheering crowd and the governor of the state, "Hope to see you in New York." When he ran through his hometown of Foyle, he took a few minutes to visit his girlfriend Vivian and his family. And he bought a new pair of running shoes. Andy was becoming friendly with some of the other runners. One, John Solo, had adopted a dog in Arizona named Blisters, and he ran with Blisters all the way to Missouri. Philip Granville, a Canadian, believed he could win the race by walking, then changed his mind and began to run. Andy's closest friend was also his closest rival, an Englishman named Peter Gavazzi. They traded the lead from Oklahoma to Ohio. That was where Peter, more than 6 hours ahead of Andy, had to drop out because of a toothache. With 1,000 miles left to go, Andy Payne took over first place for good. There is probably, I think that's the bus, maybe? Is that the bus or the news crews or something that are following all of these racers around from town to town, city to city. Another real photograph. The finish line. By the third week of May, the runners were closing in on New York City. The daily distances were getting longer. One day, the men ran nearly 75 miles. C.C. Pyle, the race organizer, was broke. It wasn't certain that he could be able to pay the winners the prize money. But on May 26, 1928, the Bunioneers, as the 55 remaining runners were now called, came plodding into New York's Madison Square Garden. Even though they had been running for 84 days, they had to keep running, circling the arena for another 20 miles before the race was over. Here's a picture. These don't have captions with it. I'd like to know where that is. So that's kind of interesting that they don't have captions, but just showing you about, reminding you the times and how long ago it was, what things looked like back then. Okay, in the end, C.C. Pyle did come up with the money. It took 573 hours, 4 minutes, and 34 seconds, but Andy Payne achieved his dream. He won the $25,000 first prize. John Solo and Blisters won the $10,000 second prize. Philip Granville, the Canadian walker, won the third prize of $5,000. Andy took the train back to Oklahoma. True to his word, he paid what his family owed on their farm. In 1929, he married Vivian Shaddocks. That year, there was a second transcontinental foot race. This one going in the opposite direction from New York City to Los Angeles. Andy did not take part. The winner was Peter Gavazzi, his sore tooth all healed. Today, people still remember Andy Payne for his remarkable achievement. Every May, an Andy Payne Bunyan Run marathon takes place in Oklahoma City. And if you happen to be traveling on Route 66 by Andy's hometown of Foyle, you'll see a life-size statue of Andy doing what he loved to do: run. Oh, remember on this page I said there was no caption? I spoke too soon. Here's the rest of that picture, and there's a caption right here at the bottom that tells us exactly what it is. It says Madison Square Garden occupied this building from 1925 to 1968. So here's the whole picture. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the entire picture. So I spoke too soon when I said there was no caption. But anyway, okay, that was our story for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Look up Andy Payne. I think I linked a review or a informational article / video about him in our Canvas reading folder. So if you want, you can look it up in there. If not, just stay tuned and I will ask you some more questions.